necessarily the NDA, to bring substantial more resources into the field for the benefit of all the parties. So I think my proudest day here of the NDA is a couple months.
But if we want to have an endowment, the CETA grants are no more, the Ford grants are no more, how does one construct an endowment? The other side, of course, is to have it bequeathed to you, which is always a charming thing to go to your donors and ask them about, you know, that money. But how do we build an endowment? Is it possible?
It's never easy. It's always a struggle. I know the number theater very well. When I was at Janssen, there was a winner of the Janssen Award, one a cash prize. That's always a struggle to build an endowment and to get ongoing support for your theater. So it's a constant struggle. I was there a magic elixir that itself.
Hi, my name is Tracy Arden, and I'm one of the several commercial producers that you're talking about.
I'm one too.
I happen to be producing a show this season in the spring with Roundabout Theater Company. And I just, you know, I'm having an issue as an artistic producer, which it's becoming increasingly hard for commercial producers to do pieces that are jarring. And I think something has to be said about commercial producers who are willing to continue to do difficult pieces in a time where you know, the commercialization of the for-profit theaters has really gotten out of control, in my opinion. So I just want to say that there are commercial producers out there that still want to do artistic, daring pieces. And the not-for-profit theaters are allowing, for some of us, to get those pieces off the ground. So it's not just people going out doing, you know, commercial pieces for lots of money. There are those of us who want to maintain the integrity of the commercial theater, and so you know, that's a part of this situation that I hope we all keep in mind.
This is not a simple equation.
Right.
It's complicated. I agree.
It's my second production with the not-for-profit theater.
Good luck with it.
Scott Walters from the Center for Rural Arts Development and Leadership Education. Going back to your discussion about the formation of the regional theater, which we have slowly come to call the nonprofit theater, but actually was the regional theater. And part of Margot Jones's vision was that we would have regionally based artists who lived in a community and had a relationship with that community. We now have a situation where everything is centralized in New York. We extract our young artists from their home, send them to New York, and then re-export them back at a higher price.
And we're not better off.
That's right. So, in a lot of ways, the regional theater continues to be an extension of New York City, whether it's profit or non-profit. And it feels to me as if that that disconnect from the community comes from a lack of roots for the artists as well. Also, it's become extraordinarily urban. You know, Margot Jones talked about a theater in every town of 100,000, and after those were done, every town over 50,000. That certainly hasn't happened. I was just in Washburn, Wisconsin, which has a theater called Stage North, City of 2000. They have sold 10,000 seats over the last year.
Wow.
Which I think qualifies them as the epicenter of New York.
I found that in Chelsea, Michigan, it's the city of 5,000.
Yeah. So I'm not getting around to anything with a question mark here. You had two things that you could do: increase supply, increase demand, but you could also open new markets. And if we could get away from these sort of centralized urban areas and expand the arts a little bit more, maybe there would be more voter support for the NEA as well.
I think that'd be great. I'd love it. Oh. You better tell them your name.
I'm Tom Gertel, and although I never worked for Rocco directly, I have a very close relative who did. So this is a completely...
Well, you worked with me for how many years?
Without prejudice. And of the 60 or so shows that were produced on Broadway, I think all but 2 have been produced in New Janssen houses. But I wanted to address the notion that perhaps the resident theater, regional theaters are overbuilt. One of the things that you didn't touch on in your narrative about how the regional movement was built was that although at the very beginning the movement was encouraged by a relatively small number of donors, in fact it's been sustained over all of the last many years by a wide diversity of donors.
That's a big change.
We've recently seen in England a much more centralized system of supporting its theater, enormous cuts in budgets of theaters across the country, or at least potentially across budget cuts across the country, as the central government decides what to do. They don't have tax deductions for contributions in England. And so the culture of private giving is almost non-existent, and virtually everything is decided by the government. Implicit in the notion that we ought to sort of cut back the number of resident theaters that there are is the idea of some central control of whether that's doable or not. These theaters are only very limitedly supported by central agencies anymore.
As much as I would like to. Although I would recommend all of you seeing Jersey Boys, it's fantastic. But there's eagles of successes here. My uncle Jay Landesman was one of the original Bohemians. Once had a management company, and where they did personal management for people. And his motto, which actually put on the business card, he said, "We take the sting out of success and put the joy back in failure." I'm not here to advocate for failure or to turn the clock back. But I would submit that maybe we could have a reset on the metrics, the standard of success, as we evaluate the work of a lot of resident theaters. Maybe perhaps return to a little of the idealism of a previous time. Thanks. If you say Mr. Chairman, I think working around
So I'd like to, you participated in both the 1974 FACT Congress.
I covered the New York Times.
Right, so you attended it and covered it for the New York Times. And then in 2000, is that right? 2000? I have it right here.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah, 2000, June 2000, there was a second conference, and these were gatherings of commercial producers and nonprofit artistic directors and I think managing directors as well to come together and talk about the relationship between those two worlds. And I think it's fair to say that in the first Congress in 1974, Broadway was sort of courting the nonprofit theater because Broadway was on the ropes and thought there might be some good synergies there. And the nonprofits really seemed to want to have nothing to do with commercial Broadway. And in fact,